It's been nearly 15 years since Grand Theft Auto 5 released on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I try to suppress a good bit of my middle school years, but I still can't help but recall the craze circulating around this game-changing title. Every other conversation being had brought up GTA 5. My YouTube was full of gameplay clips, had people losing sleep, had me intrigued, but my mom had already made her stance on shooting games very clear. Nah, I wasn't even at a legal age to sneak out and purchase it, so in order to convince her I wanted a game with Grand Theft in the title, I chose to focus on the third part, and months later managed to sweet talk myself into the most awkward purchase I've ever made. Totally worth it. Phenomenal game. In fact, part of me's wondering why I even wrote an intro. I'm sure you're more than aware of its existence at this point, being that it's reached 3 generations of consoles and a couple hundred million gamers. People have been holding out hope on a sequel for years. I know long-lost gamers who intend on purchasing a next-generation console the day that game hits the market. Assuming we all make it to 2026, GTA 6 will be the largest video game release of all time. A big positive for the gaming industry, which could always benefit from more exposure to people outside of the space. But what about for those not directly involved in the game's inevitable success? Now, I'd love to imagine a world where GTA 6 makes it to Switch 2, but I'll be realistic. Despite being much more powerful than its predecessor, regardless of how long they push the release date back, the Switch 2 will be the current-gen console left out of this huge opportunity, despite being the console that released this year. Not even a single holiday season has passed yet, and we're one more trailer away from millions of teens changing their Christmas lists from Switch 2 to PlayStation 5. This game's launch will direct console sales elsewhere during a time where Nintendo needs to establish long-term growth. The burden of a new GTA releasing early in their console's life is an issue they've experienced before. I'm not trying to draw comparisons. Obviously, the Switch 2 is off to a phenomenal start, and being left out of the GTA 5 craze wasn't the only issue plaguing the Wii U. But while other console sales exploded late in their lifetime, Nintendo had to cut prices just to remain a relevant third place. To many, deciding what to play GTA 5 on was synonymous with deciding what console ecosystem to be a part of, and Nintendo wasn't even an option. Back then it was likely moral principle in avoiding this not-so-family-friendly game. Now it likely comes down more to technical limitations. Either way, you try not to repeat mistakes past, so what should they do? Try to release a huge game to rival attention of GTA 6? I don't think that'd be the best idea. We've already seen publishers express concern about releasing titles around GTA 6's launch, and for good reason. That release window is going to shadow everything. You're going to get tired of hearing about it. TikTok, coworkers, the evening news, it's going to be everywhere. No one, Nintendo included, has a title that could capture the spotlight from Rockstar Games going head to head. Attempting to would simply waste a significant amount of energy put in. And publishers don't have to deal with just 1 week pre and post release. We're talking months of residual effect when you consider the scope of this game. Story mode, online mode, modes in online. As a kid, I probably logged 20 hours just doing flips in the boonies. Add in that GTA 6 is likely to come with a hefty price tag, and you've got a lot of people trying to get the most out of their purchase. Many passing on Switch 2 and its respective titles due to a lack of resources, whether it be time or money. You could say as Nintendo, you just gotta hold off a bit. Lose the battle, but hold on to your cards to win the war. At the end of the day, it's just one of those unfortunate, unavoidable situations. Just maintain a low profile and hope for the best. That was honestly my initial thought, but we're talking about the sequel to a game that sells millions of units every year 12 years later. GTA 6's existence already somewhat impacts what this holiday season looks like, but there's no doubt it will drive holiday season 2026. Now there's enough momentum for Switch 2 to remain the most wanted this year, but especially after the Gotta Have It fans take part in the Switch 2's hot start. Santa might not be so short on inventory next year. The chance of stagnating sales that early on could really alter the path forward for Nintendo. Still, they should continue to capitalize on the time beforehand. GTA 6 being postponed to next year gave Nintendo a better opportunity to claim some of the millions who don't yet own a next-generation console. But currently, there's only a $50 difference between a PS5 and Switch 2. Both have great libraries, one's portable, one has better performance. They're certainly comparable, so obviously the decision would then lean in favor of the system that allows me to enjoy this 50-in-1 game with my friends. Prioritizing adding value to Switch 2 before that day comes is key, because once consumers invest elsewhere, you no longer have to sell your $70 game versus Sony's $70 game. You have to sell your game and a console. I think Nintendo's IP is second to none. But if I were to pick up a PS5 next year, log 3 months of GTA 6, then decide on my next title, as the average consumer, do you think I pay $500 to play Mario Kart World, or $15 a month to have access to a library of games? Inevitably, Nintendo will hit some slower times next year, but more important is the steps Nintendo takes to bounce back from this slow time. Now, it's been a great release year from a game perspective. Building up a strong catalog of games always helps. But there's no shortage of great games regardless of where you decide to play. If they want to bounce back strong, they're going to have to tap into the 150 million people who owned an original Switch. However, so far extra effort has gone into further profiting from the Switch's install base rather than replicating it. Not to rehash my first ever video, but it's silly that just to play the upgraded versions of a game you already own, you have to pay extra, like it couldn't have been a core benefit of the $450 upgrade. Most of their third-party titles release or have released and run better elsewhere. Pokémon Legends ZA just came out and can be purchased on the last-gen console for even less. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just as fun as the new $20 more expensive sequel. Even their previous $70 title launched for the original Switch. Sure, it might look better on Switch 2, but for $520, I could upscale both via emulator and have them look even better. Why should I be in a huge rush to get a Switch 2? There has to be some initiative taking place as the smoke clears to build hype around being, or becoming, a Switch 2 owner, and not just because you have to own one to play the next 3D Mario. Now, I'm not claiming for this to be the ruin of Nintendo. I understand that they have a different target demographic that are less likely to be intrigued by stealing a jet out of the military base. But to deny that there's a significant amount of overlap in the mainline community would be a lie. Being that this current generation began in 2020, even though you couldn't necessarily find a console then, the releases have been staggered enough that many don't have to choose one or the other. Maybe GTA 6 completely flops and Pikmin 5 drops to worldwide praise. I'm just making note that this is going to recall gamers past and present, and for those without a current generation console, the Switch 2 will get passed up next May when everybody and their mother gets invested in GTA 6. But come next May, I'll still be making videos. That's probably like 15 of them. So if you wanted to watch a couple, I'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. Or you could watch one more and just give up on me. Either way, you have a good one.